to say a tribal caste continuum, and according to Gurye, tribal people are backward Hindus differing only in degrees of other segments of Hindu society. For him, it is done understanding. Elvin was, when he studied the caste and tribal continuum, it was that Elvin argued that the recognition of separate social and cultural identity of tribal people, Government of India gives straight recognition to this identity by living alive under the Constitution sanction and the list of scheduled tribes. Max Weber, a well-known German sociologist in social structure, and when we have Indian tribes, loses its territorial significance and assumes that the forms of an Indian caste, it is a tribe is a local group, whereas caste is a social group. Means people like Max Weber was of an understanding that tribe is a local group and caste is a social group. According to Andre Bethe, which you will study a lot when you study Indian sociology, there are certain commonly observed difference between caste and tribe. These tribes are relatively isolated as to the caste. They are the world within itself having few externalities. Tribes speak a variety of dialects which separates them from non-tribes. They follow their own religion and practice which are not common in Hinduism. Language is a criterion of difference as tribe speaks local dialects. For example, the Mundas, the Orangs of the Chota Nagpur speak different dialects, but the Bhumis and lost of tribal dialects and speak dominant language of the area. So other than Bethe, according to Bale, tribe and caste should be viewed as a continuum, means a continuous process. He seeks as to make a distinction not in terms of totality of behavior, but in more limited way in relation to political economic system. Briefly, Bale's argument is that a caste society is hierarchical, but a tribal society is segmentary and egalitarian, means it is in segments and it is an equal society. But in contemporary India, caste and tribes are being merged in different systems which are neither or nor others. From ethnographic records, we have to understand that when we study tribes, there is something called ethnography. One second. Okay, sorry. And the ethnographic records establish the certain context varied from semi-isolation to complete assimilation. Numerous castes among Hindus have emerged out of tribal spectrum. The recent studies of tribals of Himalayan, Western and Middle Indians have left no doubt that some tribals are Hinduized to the extent that they are assimilated with different castes and in different. We have spoken about Sanskritization, Westernization, modernization in the earlier slides when we were talking about caste system. If you look at those slides, you will understand that how this assimilation has happened a period of time. Acculturation has also happened, which you can find in those slides. The main study of two major central Himalayans are the Tharu and the Khasa reveals that the tribal matrix and continue to practice certain distinctive tribal customs, and they have accepted as Kshatriyas. That means they are now Kshatriyas. Their culture is being modeled on the way of living of Rajputs and the Brahmins of the neighborhood plan with the fast adoption of Hindu names and establishment of social connection with the Rajputs and the Brahmins of the plains. So they declared themselves as Rajputs and with Brahmins constitute an apex of the social order with the long and continuous contacts with regional Hindu castes. The tribals of the Kauravas have been assimilated as Rajput caste. There are numerous other tribes which have undergone selective acculturation and have added selected traits or features in the regional Hindus to their respective traditional cultures. In this practice of acculturation means taking up the culture, most of them have failed to occupy any rank in the caste hierarchy, which a few of them were integrated into the lower strata of the Hindu social system. So what are the tribal problems? As when you prepare for civil services, obviously many a times the tribal problems are being asked during the interview also. So you need to know what are the tribal problems in your region, in when you are going from Tamil Nadu, what are the problems which a tribal from Tamil Nadu does face. So the major problems in the Indian context is land alienation, poverty and indebtedness, health and nutrition, education and cultural problems. So exploitation and unrest of tribes. So thus a cumulative results of number of factors is indifferences between administrators and bureaucracy in dealing with the tribal grievances. When we deal with tribal grievances, harsh and friendly forest laws and regulation, lack of legislations to prevent and passing tribal land into hands of the non-tribal, lack of credit facilities, ineffective government measures to rehabilitate tribal population, delay in implementation of recommendations of different committees, discrimination in implementation of reform measures. So there can be a big list of tribes for you students. You can go through this reference so that you can know more about the tribals which is there in your syllabus. So now I move from the tribal to the next chapter for your understanding where I talk about something called rural societies, which is again very important. Tribals also live in rural societies. The caste also live in rural societies. They all are part of a rural society, and rural society is being studied by many scholars, and that has to be understood also by a student who is applying for WPCS or a TNPCS or any other Maharashtra PCS or UPSC, whoever it is. So how do you define rural sociology? Rural sociology by few foreign scholars are Kaplan F. Strauss, a study of rural population and rural social organization and rural social processes in rural society. Sanderson defines rural sociology as a social life in rural society. Indian scholars say that definition of A.R. Desai, who was A.R. Desai's book is very popular in Indian sociology or rural sociology and most suitable and closer to Indian society. He observed rural sociology as a science of laws of development of rural society with prime objective of mere scientific, systematic and comprehensive study of rural social organization and its structure, function and objective tendencies of development on the basis of such studies to discover the laws of its development. Rural sociology is a new branch of sociology which studies are carried out from 19th century, and the prominent scholars engaged in rural sociology was Henry Wayne, Elton, Steeman, Baden-Powell, Steller, Pethock and many others. Rural sociology is a field of sociology associated with a study of social life in non-metropolitan areas. It is a scientific study of social arrangements and behavior among people distant from points and concentrated population or economic activity. In contrast, the rural sociology, urban sociology is study of urban social life. Business, agribusiness is one of the focus of rural sociology, and much of the field is dedicated to economics of the farm production. Other areas of the study include rural migration and other demographic patterns, environmental sociology, amenity-led development, public land policies, so-called as boomtown development, social disruption of sociology of natural resources, rural health care and education policies, etc. Okay, Tuanis, when we study rural sociology students, we need to understand very two important terms of Tawnis. Tawnis was, which is very important, a question also for UPSC where we ask the difference between Gemenscraft and Jesselcraft. It is often appealed that the starting point from the beginning of the theorist, the rural, indeed the excess of nearby, labels him the father of rural sociology. A bit nihilist and perceiving him to be father of community studies approach. Tawny's concept of Jesselcraft refers to a large-scale, impersonal, calculative and contractual relationship that according to Tawny were increasing in the industrial world. Jesselcraft means association. Jesselcraft means association. And at the expense of the community, that is Gemenscraft. That is Gemenscraft. How do you remember as a UPSC? It is Gemenscraft. How do you remember as a UPSC student the difference between Gemenscraft and Jesselcraft? Gemenscraft has a M, which it resembles to the community, and that is why it is small community, and Jesselcraft is association. The latter is more familiarity and continuity, but also a totality is not merely an aggregate of its parts, but which is made of the parts in such a manner that they are dependent upon, conditioned by the totality, and hence as form of possesses reality and substance. So here I have differentiated Gemenscraft and Jesselcraft for you because it is an important slide to be noted upon. Gemenscraft is a community P industrial and Jesselcraft is a society, association, organization, post-industrial community to the modern world. Gemenscraft is real and organic life. It is a unit outwards. It is an intimate, private and exclusive life. It is a public life. Bound to be from the birth, mechanical. Old and organic exist in the realm of the business, travel or science, new as a name, as a phenomenon. Should be understood as organism, should be understood as a commercial, transitory and superficial. Indian village. What is an Indian village? What do you know? History. The Indian village is discussed by Valmiki in Ramayana and was referred in Mahabharata. As Valmiki mentions, the smaller that is known as the bush and the bigger is known as the gram. The mathas is the official of both gram, and the gram called the gram mathar and the ghosh mathar. What is a gram? Gram in English is the village. Okay, Gramani is another official at the village level, that is the villager. In Ramayana, when Rama killed Ravana, the note says that the god sings praising the Rama as a god of Gramani, means a god of the villagers, and signifies the respect for the villagers. What is the characteristics of a rural society? Village is a unit, caste is a dominant institution, people live traditionally, caste occupations are dominant, cooperatives, functions of several castes exist. Village is a self-sufficient economic unit governed by religious and local traditions, leisurely attitude towards life, low standard of living. Its character and structure depends on caste, religion and linguistic composition. Main features of a rural society: village is a community. The village satisfy all the needs of the village. They have sense of unity and feeling of ambiguity, amicability towards each other. Village is an institution. The development of the village is influence considered by the life of the village. In this way, village is a primary institution. Religiosity, faith in religion, universal power is found in the life of the village. The major occupation is agriculture, which involves dependence on nature. Farmers worship for forces of nature. The life of the village is a joint family system. Family is a restrict control and administrative power over the individual. All the members of the family share the burden of the family occupation. In this way of working together, the villagers maintain sense of cooperation among themselves. In the life of the villagers, feeling occupies an important place. They respect the judgment and obey the elders and panchayats. Society and caste and panchayat have control over the individuals. Then the institution of caste. Let me talk about the, although we have talked about caste, but still in the village context, we need to talk about the caste. So what is the caste? The institution of caste represents the entire system by which the whole society is organized into different groups. The interrelationships determine division of labor, exchange of goods and services are carried on social rules and obligations the individual prescribe. Wesley defines caste as a collection of the families or group of families bearing a common name, claiming a common descendant for the mythical ancestors, human or divine, professing to follow, and some hereditary calling and forming a single homogeneous community. According to M. N. Srinivas, the features of caste prevailing through past centuries may be described in 9 heads: hierarchy, restriction on food, drink and smoking, distinction in custom, dress and speech, population, ritual and other privileges, disabilities, caste organizations, and caste mobility. The first systematic study of rural India was made by D. N. Majumdar and followed by N. K. Bose, S. C. Dubey, M. N. Srinivas. The publication of Andhra Pradesh Studies in Agrarian Structure of Society 1974, Agrarian Sociology gained professional respectability between the two disciplines. Now let us discuss a little about the agrarian social structure. Peasant studies is the way to arrive in India, and the village studies, the collection of the essays Village India, edited by Marriott with the emphasis of his little communications and great communities, was brought out under the direct supervision of Robert Redfield. By defining little communities not in relation to land and other social relationships, but by kinship, religion, and social organizations of caste. There was a shift away from looking at rural population in relation to agriculture and land. Caste hierarchy came to be defined in rituals and social interactions over institutions and commensality and marriage. So we have the concept of Jajmani system. This system is interrelated readiness services within the Hindu community. Was known as the Jajmani system. Very, very well known. Have to be known question. Central in such a construction of exchange is the idea of reciprocity by Gunda, which is an assumption that non-exploitation system of mutual gratification and supposed to be outcome of reciprocal exchange. Intercaste relations at village in the level of constitution variety lies. They may be classified into economic, ritual, political and civil ties. The caste living in a village are bound together by economic ties. Generally, peasant caste are numerically preponderant in villages and they need to be carpenters, blacksmiths and the leather workers caste to perform agricultural work. Servicing caste such as priests, barbers, washermen and water carriers cater to the need of everyone except the Harijans. Artisan caste produces goods and they want it to be everything. Most Indian villages do not have more than few of essential castes and depend on neighboring villages for certain services and goods. very well written scholar on agrarian society is the Daniel Thorner, and the structure of the land relationships and depth independence, where a small selection of few landowners and money lenders were dominant, continued to prevail in Indian countryside. The nature of property relationship, the local values and related social prestige negatively to physical labor, and the absence of any surplus with actual cultivators for investment on land ultimately perpetuated stagnation. This complex of legal, economic, and social relations typical of Indian countryside serves to produce the effect of Thorner described as a built of depression. Community development, very much asked question in the UPSC. There are a lot of community development programs these days, and the strategies of development (CDP) we know as in different land reforms and ideas of cheap institutional credit available to the cultivators. CDP are intimated for productionist approach to rural development. It is based on the notion of harmonious village community without any significant internal differences and conflict interests. There hardly any mention of equal power relationships in the village. Its objective was to provide substantial increase in agriculture production and improvement in basic services, which is ultimately led to the transformation of social and economic life of the village. So we have rural development. Rural development is very important for a rural society. So we have something called the rural development, which is very interesting to understand. And many civil servants really make very good strategies for rural development. So what is it all about? It's a strategy designed to improve the economic and social life of the rural poor. It is a process which aims to improve the well-being, self-realization of the people living outside the urbanized area through collective process. Rural development is all about to bring change among the rural community from the traditional way of living to a progressive way of living. It is expressed as the movement of process. What is the definition of United States, the nations, what rural development is a process of change by which the effort of the people in themselves, those government authorities to improve economic and social and cultural conditions in community and life of the nation to enable them to contribute fully to the national program. Programs in rural development, people related, agriculture related, infrastructure related, economic related, social and cultural related, leadership related problems, administrative problems, traditional way of life, poor understanding, poor level of education, understanding, development efforts of new technology, deprived psychology and scientific orientation, lack of confidence, poor awareness, low level of education, existence of unleft incidents and personal ego, lack of expected awareness, knowledge, skill and attitude, unavailability of inputs, poor market of facility, insufficient extension of staff and services, multi-dimensional task to extension personnel, small size of land holding, division of land, unwillingness to work and stay in the rural areas. So this is about rural society. So when we talk about rural society, we talk it in terms of, we first speak about rural society, then we speak about urban society, then we speak about many more like this so that we can actually have an idea about all these things about this. So what we have spoken today, we have spoken about rural society and we have spoken about the tribal part of the way which we were dealing in the last class. So this is what we were doing in the last class, that we talked about the tribal society and then we were talking about today we took up something called rural society. Okay, so just a minute. the rural sociology part, which is there, and we will talk about the urban structure. Next class, we will try to talk about the urban structure, which will be a better way for understanding the urban structure in relation to this. Okay. So one thing which I left, which I was seeing the video and which I thought that I had left in the last class, was one part of the tribal way which I should tell and share with the student, and that is tribal and tribal displacement issues. This is a very well, Megha Patikar and the Sardar Sarovar Dam and all these things are speaking about the tribal displacement. So what is a displacement? Displacement or the forced voluntary eviction of the tribals from their land and the national habitats and subsequent rehabilitation have become very serious problem. It has become a very, very serious problem when we speak about tribals, we speak about rural people. Displacement has become a major challenge. And displacement takes place mainly on account of development projects like Sardar Sarovar Dam, the Narmada Bachao Dam, and many other dams which are there in the country. And these are development projects, include large irrigation dams, hydroelectrical projects, open cast, underground coal mills, superthermal power, and mineral industry. In these projects, tribal loses their land not only to the project authority but to the non-tribal outsiders who cover their areas and corner both land and the new economic activities. Inadequate rehabilitation and displaced tribal will further compound their woes as they will become assetless and the employment and trapped in the bound and may even be more destituted. It is known that displacement is far-reaching negative and economic and social consequences, and that this slide also gives you the percentage. So if we want to review the tribal situation of the country, we have to review it on the basis of educational status. What is the educational status? What is the dropout? What is the primary education? What is the lack of infrastructure among them? What is the commitment of the teachers to teach them? How is the monitoring mechanism going on? And what is the popular medium of instruction for the tribal dialects? In social issues, social situation, if we want to evaluate them, that we have to evaluate that who are the scheduled caste, who are the scheduled tribe, what is the untouchability, high number of cases registered under the protection of the Civil Service Act 1995, scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, Prevention and Atrocities Act 1989. All these things have to be removed. Then we have something called the economic structure also. The economic structure, which is very, very important, that has to be taken care of. What is the economic situation? In economic situation, tribal generally have, they don't have a terrena, they don't have lands, they have low lands, they have no proper irrigation facilities, they have a lot of risk and uncertainties in the tribal community. So they lack self-employment also, they lack entrepreneurship skills, although they are rich in many crafts, but entrepreneurship is not a cup of tea for them because they cannot reach to the market, although they have a big cottage industry, but these are all small scale industries. Supply of poor seeds, pesticides, raw material, vested interest of money lenders, landlords, shopkeepers, contractors, government servants, many times exploit them. So there's poor marketing infrastructure also. In the low level land, there are ST families, there are ST finance and development, state level finance, all these things. So there are landlessness also among the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribe, which also affect them. What is the political situation? There is lack of allocation of funds for them, although there is a growth of tribal movement, protest and campaigning, but their industry, their consumer behavior is not being portrayed. And government should provide resource for tribal development, orientation, emphasize on this, and this is how it goes. So we have a social problem, we have cultural problem, we have economic problem, we have educational problems, we have cultural problems also. the various cultural problems, where their various aspects of their cultural behavior, the dances, the music, the various artifacts which they have, which should also be taken in consideration when we talk about the tribal life. Okay, thank you very much for today. When next class, Monday, when I to speak, then we will like to touch upon a content which is on urban structure. Okay, thank you, Rama. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much for today. Thank you. Thank you. Monday, I will get back to you. I'll call you. Okay.